What's up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the Numbers. These are my Draftkings MMA picks for UFC 257, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. Coming off of a really good week last week. Was able to not be as high on the main event. Ended up fading Magny and Cash, which was awesome. Faded him a single as well. Ended up with a pretty good amount of Chiesa, and my highest owned fighters did really well. I had a ton of Ricky Simone, had a ton of Ike Villanueva. So overall, it was a pretty good week. Hopefully keep it rolling here on a very good card. The prizes on DraftKings are fantastic. And yeah, hopefully win some money this week. So before we get started, if you can leave a like, as always, subscribe if you have not yet. Would appreciate that a ton. And also, I'm doing the DraftKings contest as always on these pay-per-view cards. To enter the contest, first, leave a like on the video. Second, subscribe if you haven't yet. And then third, comment down your DraftKings username. I'll get you in there. I'm doing the first 200 people that drop down their usernames. And then $25 the first, nothing much, just something to show thanks for all the support. And yeah, so if you do want more extra content, you can sign up on the Patreon link below. We have over 300 members on there. You got the Discord, you get the model with the targets, projections, rankings, lineup percentages, the Patreon only live stream as well. And yeah, lots of good stuff on there. Very affordable prices for the month. And yeah, make sure you guys tune into the live stream on Friday, 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, going over the weigh-ins, DraftKings betting, all that good stuff. So with that said, let's get into the video here. So I do want to touch on the new DraftKings scoring for the first couple weeks it's going on here. So what I've found to realize the first 2 weeks with the new scoring, I think it favors wrestler grapplers quite a bit more than the strikers. Obviously, with strikers, you're only getting 0.4 instead of that 0.5, which does add up unless you're a guy like Max Holloway. But I think the control time is definitely adding up a lot more than I originally expected. I do think takedowns are big as well, and I think finishes are something else that's going to be really big and something to look at. And as for this card, honestly don't see many finishes, so I think there's a couple fights. I think there's a good shot for each guy to finish. We'll talk about those really soon, but I just want to touch on the new things. Of course, they took out advances. They added the control time, which is 0.03 points per second. They got that quick win bonus, which is 25 points. Nobody's got that yet. I feel like there's a guy that could get this win bonus. We'll talk about him later in the video here. And other than that, not many changes, but just something to note. I do think that it favors the wrestler grapplers a little bit more than the strikers. So just take that into consideration there. So as always, we'll look at the fight doesn't go to decision lines. First, we have McGregor and Poirier, minus 425. Fight doesn't go to decision. I think it's kind of a thing where I think it's going to be McGregor early or maybe Dustin Poirier late, if anything. But I really like Conor here. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but he's going to be one of my highest owned fighters. Does Dustin have a shot? I'd say so, but I think McGregor's on a completely different level on the feed. And, that's not saying Poirier's bad or nothing. I just think McGregor's going to have a really good chance to knock him out and probably early as well. But if Poirier can't survive that early storm that McGregor's going to bring, maybe he can finish him in rounds 4 or 5, maybe something like that, maybe even get a decision. But yeah, I like McGregor here quite a bit. I do have a bet on him. I'm going to load up on DraftKings on him. 9,100 is not bad. But Poirier, he's not a bad pump play. We'll talk about it a little bit later, though. Next, we have Roundtree and Prochnio. Minus 400. Fight doesn't go to decision. Yeah, this is a fight that's going to finish. And I really like Roundtree here. And definitely going to be a core play of mine. Prochnio is somebody that's been finished in the first round in all 3 UFC fights. Roundtree has first round finishes in 5 out of 8 wins. He's somebody that really goes after it. And yeah, I think Roundtree's going to knock him out here. But I will say, if Prochnio can survive that first round, Roundtree does slow down a ton. And Prochnio does have a lot of finishes on his record prior to being in the UFC. So I'm playing both sides here, but with a really, really, really big lean on Roundtree. He's going to be one of my highest owned fighters. Azatar versus Frevola, I think this is going to be an absolute war. I do think this is a good chance of finishes. I do like both sides here as well, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but I think both guys have a solid chance to finish the fight. Obviously, I think Azatar has a little bit better chance to finish the fight. I have a bunch of them, but I will have some Frevola as well. And then Chandler Hooker, minus 125. Fight doesn't go to decision. I think this fight's going to be important. I think it's going to be a war as well. I feel like the winner's going to score very well. And yeah, definitely going both sides, especially with the pricing of Hooker at 8,500 and Chandler at 7,700. All right, getting into the core plays. Talked about him a little bit. Conor McGregor, 9,100. He's going to bring a lot of output. I think he is going to be the better striker in this fight. I guess there are some concerns about the cardio, and there have been some concerns in the past, but I'm not overly worried about it. I feel like he'll come into this fight in pretty good shape, and of course he said that he's going to knock out Poirier in the first 60 seconds, which, I mean, that would get the win bonus, but I don't really buy all that into it. I think it's very possible, but I could see this fight getting extended, and if it does, I think it'll be a little bit closer, but I still favor McGregor, even if this goes past the third round. I know there's a lot of people saying, like, if this does get into rounds 4 and rounds 5, Conor's going to gas out, Poirier's going to finish him. Maybe that happens. I just don't see it. I have McGregor and probably the majority of my lineups. I think I'm going to go 100% on this fight or really close to it. And I'm going to say I'm going to have McGregor and maybe like 70%, maybe 70-30 in favor of McGregor, maybe 75-25, something like that. But I really like McGregor. I really like the price. And I think there's a lot of finishing upside as well. Next, we have Khalil Roundtree, 9,300. It could very well be one of my highest owned fighters, right behind McGregor or, very close to him. It's just a really good matchup for him. Prachnio is somebody that, like I said, has been finished in the first round in all 3 of his UFC fights by guys like Sam Alvey, guys like Rodriguez. And I just think that, he can definitely knock him out here. Roundtree is somebody that does throw with a lot of power. He does look for the finish early. If he does not get that early first round finish, I do think he could be in some trouble, I guess. But I do see him getting it done probably in the first round. And I think he is somebody with probably the best first round knockout upside. I think it's between him and Conor. I think Azaitar has good first round upside as well. But yeah, I think if there's anybody that has that 60-second bonus, I think it's probably Roundtree there. Next, Ottman Azaitar, 8,800. It's just one of those plays where if he wins, it's going to be early. It's going to be in the first round. I do have some slight concerns regarding his ground game because there are a lot of question marks. I went back and watched this guy's entire career. What I will say was about 4 years ago, and I know it was 4 years ago. You can make massive improvements in 4 years, but he was taken down a few times. He looked like he was doing the right things. He did get up. He was able to get a finish in the third round, which is really nice to see. So it does show that he does carry some power into the later rounds. I'm not overly concerned about his gas tank. A lot of people are thinking that if this does get extended, he's going to be like really tired, gassed out. But just seeing him get a finish in the third round is definitely a good sign there. But yeah, kind of a tough fight to call, but I think Azaitar is going to knock him out. Matt Frevola is somebody that just engages in these brawls. He's been knocked down 4 times in the UFC. Got knocked out by one of the worst UFC fighters in history, Marco Polo Reyes. And I mean, Matt Frevola has been outlanded in 4 of his 5 UFC fights, something like that. So I think Azaitar is going to knock him out, but I think Frevola is not a bad play at his price either. Next, we have Joanne Calderwood, 8,400. And this is really interesting because why do I have Joanne Calderwood on here? And it's just because of the price is very interesting. And believe it or not, when Joanne Calderwood wins, she actually scores pretty decent. Now, I'll kind of go through her scores right now. And, I mean, she doesn't win, all that much. But when she does win 96 points against Andrea Lee, she did have 69 points in a loss against Caitlin Chukagian. She did have 89 points against Lipsky, 96 points, 139 points, 138 points. And this is with that new scoring system. So, like I said, I think the new scoring system does favor those wrestler grapplers. And I'm not saying she's going to get her opponent down all that much, but I feel like she could get Jessica Eye down a couple times, maybe get some top control, something like that. And also the output of Calderwood's just insane. She lands 6.17 significant strikes per minute as well. And, all these strikes are going to count, whether they're significant or not. She's going to get points for them. Like I said, she throws a ton of output. So I think it's going to add up. I think the winner of this fight could, be a sneaky option to find the optimal lineup. And Calderwood, I mean, like I said, when she wins, she scores well. I think her lowest scoring win was like 89 points. And at 8,400, I'll take 89 all day. So, yeah, Calderwood, I actually don't mind her at all at that price of 8,400. Our GBP plays here, or our tournament plays, I think Makhmud Muradov at 8,600 is very interesting. I do think he's going to have a massive striking advantage here against Andrew Sanchez. He throws a lot of volume, has some solo power as well. I don't know if he's going to knock out Sanchez, but I think it's definitely possible. Sanchez has been knocked out 3 times, and Muradov does have an 80% finish rate. I guess what I'm concerned about is if Andrew Sanchez reverts back to that wrestling-heavy game plan that he hasn't all that done, as of late. But he definitely could. There are some question marks surrounding Muradov and his takedown defense and all that because we have seen him stuff some takedowns, but against guys that I think Andrew Sanchez is going to be the toughest wrestler he's faced so far. But like I said, we haven't seen Andrew Sanchez go to that wrestling as of late. He's turned more into a striker, which is weird. Maybe it's because he doesn't really have the gas tank to push a wrestling heavy pace, and I don't think he does as well. So yeah, I like Muradov to win here. 8,600 is not a bad price. Maybe he does find a finish. Sanchez has had cardio problems in the past. Maybe Muradov gets like a third round finish. But yeah, Muradov is definitely somebody I'm looking at. Next, we have Dan Hooker, 8,500. I think this fight's going to go one of two ways. I think Hooker is going to be able to stuff the takedowns, keep it to the outside, maybe even find a finish. Or I think Chandler's going to get on the inside, take down Hooker, and it's just a really intriguing fight to me because I don't know how good Hooker's takedown defense and ground game is because we just haven't seen him fight many wrestler grapplers as of late. I mean, he was taken down a couple times earlier in his career, but he's made massive improvements since then. So I'm curious to see if Chandler's going to be able to go on the inside, take him down. If not, I feel like Hooker's going to have a lot of success, staying to the outside, landing a lot of shots, landing a lot of hard shots, and possibly even knocking out Chandler, who I think his chin's a little bit questionable. He's been knocked out twice. So yeah, Hooker's somebody I'm looking at, and this fight in general is something I'm really looking at those prices. Next, we have Amanda Ribas, 9,200. And this is just a really good stylistic matchup. What I am worried about is if she goes out there and strikes with Rodriguez for a long, extended period of time. But the smart thing to do would be to exploit that ground game of Rodriguez because the ground game is absolutely non-existent. I think Ribas, if she does get her to the mat, and I do think she does, I think she can even find a submission. Like I mentioned, the new scoring, I think it's favoring these wrestler grapplers, and if Ribas does get some takedowns, get some decent top control, and like I said, I think the submission is live as well. It's just we've seen Rodriguez look very good on the feet, but when she's been taken down, she has absolutely nothing to offer back. So I can see Ribas getting some top control, and like I said, I think that sub is very, very live, so I'm definitely looking at Ribas, but she did come out in an interview saying that she wants to test her striking against Rodriguez. I mean, I wouldn't do that. That's not smart, but yeah, give me Ribas there at 9,200. I don't know how much ownership is going to be on her because I think Roundtree and McGregor are going to be extremely high owned, so maybe Ribas is a little bit lower owned than them, but yeah, I think Ribas is a really, really solid play at 9,200. Interesting play here, Sarah McMahon, 8,200. So I do want to get into the stats a little bit for this fight. And Sarah McMahon lands an insane 4.5 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 63% takedown accuracy. And Juliana Pena has a 28% takedown defense. McMahon, very good wrestler. I think that she can get takedowns at will here. And this just seems like a spot where it's going to be an arm bar from guard because Pena, I believe she has a black belt, and McMahon has been submitted a couple times. She's been submitted 3 times, so I'd beware here. But I do think this fight, 8,200 from McMahon, Pena 8,000. I think that either fighter could score well in a win, whether it is McMahon getting a ton of top control because she has really good top control, a ton of takedowns, which is definitely possible. I can see McMahon putting up a pretty big score with this new scoring, with the ground control, with the strikes. If she lands strikes, they're going to count this time. Yeah, I don't mind McMahon here at 8,200. On the flip side of Pena, 8,000, I don't hate that as well because I think there's a legit possibility that she could get like an armbar from guard or something off her back. So, yeah, definitely a fight you want to look out for. And this fight's going to be extremely low-owned as well. I mean, nobody's going to want to play Sarah McMahon. Nobody's going to want to play Juliana Pena. But I do feel like this fight's going to score pretty well. Getting into our live dogs, Antonio Carlos Jr., 7,500. Kind of a tricky fight to call here. I just think there's so much value on Antonio Carlos Jr. here at 7,500. I think he's like plus 105 on the money line. Wouldn't be shocked if this was a complete pick'em by the time the fight started, even if Antonio Carlos Jr. was maybe the slight favorite. And I don't know, I think if Antonio Carlos Jr. gets him down maybe once, I think there's definitely a path where Jr. could find a submission. And yes, Tavares has never been submitted officially, but he was submitted on The Ultimate Fighter by Court McGee, I think in like 2010. And Tavares can be taken down, really hard to hold down though. Elias Theodorou took him down 3 times, which is kind of crazy. But I think if Carlos Jr. gets him down even once, I think Jr.'s really live for a sub. I mean, a legit grappler. But at the same time, if Tavares is able to stuff the takedowns, stay on the outside, I do think he picks apart Antonio Carlos Jr. for 15 minutes, or I think it's close at least. But don't mind Jr. here. Don't mind Jr. here at 7,500. I think the sub's live. Don't know what the ownership's going to be like, but I think he's somebody to definitely consider for the line value, especially, and that if he does get some takedowns here, I think he's live for that submission. All right, Matt Frivola, 7,400. Yeah, so like I said, there are some question marks with Zaitar in that takedown defense. From what I've seen, he's been good as of late, but hasn't really fought a wrestler grappler. The last time I saw him get taken down was in 2017. He was able to work his way up to his feet, find a late finish in the third round. Matt Frevola comes out with a really aggressive style. A little bit on the chinny side. He's been dropped 4 times, 2 by Marco Polo Reyes, and then 2 by Landa Venata as well. Zaitar hits like an absolute truck, but I mean, the path to victory is written on the wall here. I mean, if Frevola wants to win, he needs to come out here, not strike at all with the Zaitar, get takedowns, and I think Frevola could actually be a pretty solid play on DraftKings if he comes in there with that game plan. The problem is it's just not something he really does. But I mean, you gotta know. I mean, come in here, take him down. I think there could be a lot of top control for Frevola, maybe even find a submission as well. But I think Frevola at 7,400 is somebody to really, really look out for. I think Ottman Zaitar is going to be one of the highest owned plays on the slate. I think Frevola might go a little bit under owned, and I think Frevola has a pretty decent shot to win if he fights smart. Like I said, it's not something he does, but I don't hate Frevola at this price. I really don't. But then again, he could very well get knocked out in the first round. That's likely as well. So Michael Chandler, 7,700. Like I mentioned, I think this fight's going to go one of 2 ways. Either Chandler's going to, get on the inside, find takedowns, work his ground game, or Hooker's going to stuff those takedowns, stay to the outside. If Chandler can take down Hooker, like I said, there are some question marks for me personally about the ground game and takedown defense of Dan Hooker, because he really hasn't fought anybody, with the caliber of wrestling of a Michael Chandler. And like I said, he was taken down a few years back, but he's made improvements since then. So I'm kind of curious for this reason. And yeah, 7,700 for Chandler. I think if he does win, it probably scores high. The dude hits really hard, but Hooker's tough as nails. Yeah, I don't hate Chandler whatsoever. I do want to target this fight from both sides. I don't know what ownership I want to be on for as of now, but I do know I want both sides here. And Chandler's not a bad play, not a bad live dog at 7,700. And then Amir Albazi, 7,900. So he did get that sub with Malcolm Gordon in his last fight. Just another live dog to target because I do think he's very live here. I think he's lined at, I want to say, like minus 105. So kind of a pick him here. First fight of the night. I'd rather play him than Zalgas. Zalgas is kind of low volume. A lot of his fights are really close. I feel like Albazi could get a win here. Maybe even find a submission as well. Very good submission artist. Has finished 54% of his wins by submission. 92% finish rate overall for Albazi. So I think if there's a finish in either side of the Zumagulov and Albazi fight, it's going to be on the Albazi side. I do think that this fight's going to be extremely low owned. So I will have some Albazi, but I'm not overly interested in it, but just something to note that I think that he is live for sure. I think he has a good potential to win. And if it does hit the mat, whether Zumagulov does take him down, which it's possible, or if Albazi does take Zumagulov down, I think the sub is definitely live there. So something to note there. Pump plays, Dustin Poirier, I will have some. Like I said, there are a little bit of question marks with the cardio of McGregor. We have seen him slow down in the past. Poirier is going to bring a lot of output, and he's a very tough guy, although he has been knocked out twice. If he's able to survive the early storm, like I said, maybe he takes over as of late. But I'm going to be really high on McGregor, I'll be honest with you, but I will have some Poirier just in case. I don't know if I really see him finishing Conor unless Conor really gasses out, but I don't really expect that to happen. But Poirier 7,100, it's something to note there. I think in cash stacking this fight is not a bad option, but 7,100 is not bad. Marcin Prachnio 6,900. I mean, in a fight that has a ending inside the distance line of minus 400, I think it's warranted to play a bit of both sides here. Obviously, I'm going to be really high on Roundtree, but we have seen Roundtree finished before. Of course, a lot of those are coming from when guys can take him down. I think Prachnio, he's a guy that has some finishes on his record. He actually has an 85% finish rate, 77% by knockout. Roundtree has been finished twice before by strikes. Survived the first round, and maybe he can take over, land that shot. But I think Roundtree's going to knock him out here. But it's something to mention because he's going to be extremely low owned, extremely low price. And like I said, this fight's going to end inside the distance one way or another. I think the more likely outcome is a Roundtree first round knockout. But Prachnio, he has some power. Not the most skilled guy in the world by any means. Not the most defensively sound guy. But he's a powerful guy, a finisher. But I do expect Roundtree to get it done. Fades, Mozavar Evloev, I think pretty simple here. I think the smart thing for him to do would be to stuff the takedowns of Nick Lentz. stay on the outside, pick apart Lentz for 15 minutes. I do think he can take down Nick Lentz, who doesn't have the best takedown defense. But at that point, Nick Lentz has a very good guillotine, so I would watch out for that. But yeah, just stick to the outside for 15 minutes. I don't really see him scoring well. 9,400. I'd much rather play a McGregor. I'd much rather play Amanda Hebos. I'd much rather play a Roundtree. I think he'll be extremely low owned, but man, it's just hard to see him get to that 9,400 price tag there. So I'm not gonna have much Evloev. All right, guys, just want to remind you guys it's always a great time to become a member of the Patreon and receive full access to my model, premium projections, GPP lineup percentages, the DraftKings article, the Patreon-only Fight Day live stream. Haven't set a time for it yet, but it will be on Saturday, sometime Saturday afternoon. Access to Discord as well. Lots of great stuff on there. I have over 300 members on there. Thank you guys for that. And with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you can leave a like, subscribe if you have not yet, would appreciate that a ton. Make sure you guys comment down your DraftKings usernames. I will get you in there as soon as possible. Like I said, limiting that to the first 200 people. And yeah, big card here, big prizes. Have been on a good start for 2021. Hopefully keep it rolling here. And hopefully Connor gets his win because I have a ton of them. So that's about it, guys, and good luck on Saturday.